This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. Other film podcasts might just kiss a woman in an elevator. For some reason, we just end up stomping a hitman's head in. Every episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks, and I'm a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. You can hear me guest on other pods as the David Thewlis of podcasting. I'm joined by my brother and the only man that looks good in a white scorpion jacket, Jake Miller. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing okay. You know, there's kind of a genre of film that after you watch it, you're like, man, I really want to kind of break some laws. And it's like the first time you ever see Fast and Furious. Drive's kind of the same thing. It's like, man, I kind of want to go rob some places. Just
Yeah.
So today's film we're talking about is Drive from 2011, directed by Nicolas Winding Refn. We're definitely going to get into him a little bit. Written by Hossein Amini, based on the novel by James Salas, starring Ryan Gosling, our second Ryan Gosling movie, Carey Mulligan, Bryan Cranston, and Albert Brooks, co-starring Ron Perlman, Oscar Isaac, Christina Hendricks, James Barry, Caden Leos, and Russ Tamlin. Opened on May 20th, 2011 at the Cannes International Film Festival. Went wide on September 16th, 2011. Pretty decent box office for a movie on this budget. $15 million budget, $35 million domestic, $41.9 million international. Nominated for so $76.9 million overall. Nominated for one Oscar, best sound editing. If you have the chance to watch this movie with a great sound system, it has some really there's some good things that did lose that one, but just the one Oscar. It's kind of snubbed a lot of on the other ones, but Rotten Tomatoes, 93% from critics, 79 audience, which I thought would have been a little better.
I thought it would have been opposite.
Yeah, no, critics loved this movie, and people, I guess, were just not exactly what they were expecting. Okay, so Jake, before we get into kind of what's going on with this movie and everything, you had never seen this before, and
I'd never heard of it.
You had never heard of it. I went in with I was expecting this to be a Lobster situation, and I'm a feeling you kind of dug it.
Well, that's what you did. Well, what you did to me last week, you're like, oh, everyone loves when Jake hates movies. And so honestly, yesterday I was dreading doing it. I was like, I mean, I'd had a long week, and I don't want to watch a turd. And but I loved it. Yeah. I mean, I had not seen it since I originally watched it in the theater back in 2011, and I at the time I was like, man, that was great. And I rewatched it thinking, it's like, this is probably I probably overanalyzed it, and it's probably artsy fartsy and pretentious at the end of the movie. I'm like, nope, it was great. Like, so yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Okay, so the film Drive stars Ryan Gosling as the unnamed driver. He is a mechanic, a stunt double, but more importantly, in an incredible sequence soap in the movie, he is a getaway driver for robberies around Los Angeles. His jobs are managed by his car mechanic buddy, the auto shop owner Shannon, played by Bryan Cranston, and he just kind of lives a quiet life, doesn't really do much. Driving is kind of what he likes to do. He has a unspoken one-sided love of a neighbor in his apartment, Irene, played by Carey Mulligan, and she has a little son to go along with him. And he kind of grows close to her. And then it turns out that her husband was actually in jail. Her husband, Standard, played by Oscar Isaac, but so he kind of they kind of have a little romance, and things kind of happen from there. But on the side of that, Shannon decides he wants to recruit a low-level mobsters, essentially, to fund a stock car for Driver to drive. So he talks to Bernie Rose, played by Albert Brooks, and then and his partner Nino, played by Ron Perlman. And those two essentially decide, okay, we'll make the stock car happen. And so that's kind of in the works, and the gangsters are kind of in the background. And then Standard comes home, and he kind of realizes they kind of have a thing, but Driver comes home one day and sees Standard beaten up by gangsters, and he explains he essentially owes protection money from prison, and he needs to rob this pawn shop. And so he gets roped into this, and the driver's like, I'll do all the driving for you. I'll make sure all that works out. And so he goes along with Blanche, played by Christina Hendricks, and she's in the movie for about 5 minutes. And so they go rob this pawn shop, and it seems like everything goes fine until Standard gets shot as he's walking out. He's eventually killed. The driver and Blanche run away, and it turns out it was just a big mob kerfuffle. It's a coincidence that it happened to be that Standard and the driver were all involved. And it turns out that it looks like Nino was actually trying to rob the mob. And then Bernie essentially says, well, can't have that because we're just low-level mobs, and the East Coast guys will come in and kill us real quick. So we gotta essentially cut the heads off of everybody who knows about the operation. So they start killing everybody that is involved. They send a hitman to try to kill Irene and the driver, but the driver, as we said, stomps the ever-living hell out of a guy in an elevator. And then Shannon is killed. Nino is killed by the driver, and then pretty much the only person left is the driver and Bernie. And the driver's like, I don't care about the money, I'll give it back, fine. And he goes and gives it back. And at the end of the movie, Bernie stabs him, and then driver stabs him back. And even though he's bleeding, gets in the car, drives away, doesn't care about the money. The end. So there's a lot to get into. It's, you know, so like I said, I was surprised. So when I was watching it last night, as I was going along, I was like, I bet you there's parts of this that Jake's actually enjoying. Like that opening driving sequence is incredible.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I loved it all. I mean, I've even, just that opening sequence, and, you know, they kind of have the opening, and then it's like a delayed opening credits.
Yes.
And the bright pink font. Yes. The music, all of that, to me was very reminiscent of Grand Theft Auto. Miami Vice.
Yes, exactly. Yes. The only Grand Theft Auto we ever played, but we played so obsessively, and being on a vehicle listening to the music was the highlight of being in the game. You're like, listen to the stupid radio DJs, and yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. So I mean, and everybody kind of went into that thinking that was the case with this movie. In fact, I saw a trivia piece that a woman went to watch this movie expecting a Fast and Furious movie. And she came out and she said, that's not what I wanted. That's not Fast and Furious. And she's like, well, it's just a different movie. Like, it's like, there's some driving stuff, but I mean, there's essentially two driving action scenes.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's, it's more in depth than Fast and the Furious. I mean,
it's got a lot more ideas. Yeah.
You know, if Fast and the Furious is a, you know, cheeseburger at the fair, this is way beyond that, if you ask me.
Yeah. This is like you go to a restaurant and you're like, hey, you want a cheeseburger? And they're like, sure. And they bring it out and it's like gourmet, and there's a fried egg on it, and it's like, man, this is nice. It's like, yeah. So it's you go in having this sort of expectation, and then at the same time, so all that sounded like a lot of plot, and there is kind of a lot of plot with this, but in between all the rest of that is relative silence.
Yeah.
Like
Ryan Gosling, driver, doesn't say much. He's a man of very few words.
Nope.
And so I think that's almost more of an acting challenge.
Oh yeah.
Than to be someone with a ton of dialogue is to be someone with very limited dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you have to convey the majority of what you're doing and who you are, and just through mannerisms and
when you do talk, you got to make it count. Like
right.
That, and the driver in this movie specifically. So there's this one scene specifically. He's at a diner and he's just drinking coffee, and this guy comes up to him, and he was obviously like, "Oh yeah, you're Shannon's buddy. You drove me and my brother." And he kind of stops him. He's like,
"Oh yeah,
if you say another word, I'm gonna beat your teeth in." Like, it's just like there's so little known about him. Like we know he's one, a good driver.
Mm-hmm.
Two, very, very, very adept at devious things. Like he
understands the underworld.
He understands the underworld and can carry himself very well. Like a guy comes through a door with a shotgun. He knows how to deflect it. He knows,
right?
Oh, here's a guy. Hey, look, I'm going to stab him real quick. And he can handle all this, and he has the psychological capabilities of that. But besides that, he's a real cipher. He's been around the block, but he's a real cipher. Like there's not a whole lot going on.
Yep. Well, I think just in the fact that you never know his actual name. He's only referred to as driver.
Yep.
The driver or kid.
Yep.
Bryan Cranston's character, Shannon, refers to him as a kid the whole time.
And not to mention, it's kind of this movie touches on a lot of interesting things like secondary mobsters and the economics of being a prisoner in prison, the economics of to run a race team, how expensive it is to be an auto car racer. I mean, how cheap stuntmen are. Like there's a lot of interesting little things about this movie. I want to talk about Gosling for a little bit because there's some things, we touched on him a little bit in The Gray Man, where he was much more action hero-y. In this one, he's much more, he looks like a baby. He like his hair is down, and he's very handsome. He's in a Canadian tuxedo at points, looks like $1 million bucks. Like just everything he wears, you're like, he is so good looking. But man, he's laying it all out there, as in, it's weird a guy that looks like Ryan Gosling is somehow able to have a face that goes, fuck you, I don't want anything to do with anybody, and be able to just be like shut off from the world. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I think that's a tougher acting job.
Yeah.
Than to be an extroverted character that's, a lot of lines, everything. I mean, I can only imagine. I don't know. To me, I almost thought about The Castaway. Tom Hanks's performance in that, I was very impressed with, because he had to convey so much with so few words.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was a bit reminiscent of that, is being a really good actor, playing your role super well, but without
no bells and whistles. There's no tricks.
Yeah.
And there are times whenever he's just driving along, and just kind of like the hardness of his face, kind of, you're like, man, he's ready. He's mad right now. And he's just with the way he's looking, it's not necessarily like, and then his driving, the determination in his eyes and all, like, without saying anything, He doesn't tell people to shut up. He doesn't have to say that. He just does it, and it, like, they realize all this kind of stuff happens. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, there's those scenes where you're like, oh, he's gonna go get revenge, even though he never says
a word.
These guys pay for it or nothing. Like, you're like, this guy's fixing to go take care of business. You know?
Yeah.
And he conveys that just through appearance, mannerisms, whatever you want to call it. Well done.
I want to talk about the director of this movie, Nicolas Winding Refn. He's a so in the world of independent or international cinema, a lot of people know who he is, but he's an acquired taste. So I think a lot of people watched Drive and went like, "Cool, this is what all his movies are like, right?" No, not in the least bit. He started out with a series of films called Pusher 1, Pusher 2, Pusher 3, and they're kind of dealing with the criminal underworld over in Europe. His first English language movie was a movie called Bronson. Bronson is a fascinatingly interesting movie. In that it's the movie that essentially introduced the world to Tom Hardy. He's Bronson. He was a prisoner, and he called himself Charles Bronson, even though I think his name is Michael Peterson. He's essentially insane, and he's in prison, and it's essentially him narrating and going on all these crazy adventures in prison. It's a wildly interesting shot at a movie. It's more of a like, wow, Tom Hardy's really impressive than it is more Nicolas Winding Refn. So he makes a independent movie called Valhalla Rising, which is it's kind of cool. It's really, really dark. It's a lot of old timey Viking mythology having to do with it. Then he makes Drive, and after he makes Drive, everybody's like, this is the new guy. He's gonna be making Bond movies. He's got, his own stuff around here. He's going to be the next art house blockbuster filmmaker. And then 2 years after this, he makes another movie with Ryan Gosling called Only God Forgives. And everybody just kind of goes, never mind. So I've
never heard of that.
It's an extremely odd movie about, he's like Ryan Gosling is I think a bare knuckle boxer in Cambodia. A Muay Thai boxing club in Bangkok, Thailand. So yeah, I mean,
no, I love that movie. It's actually called Appaloosa.
Exactly. So I mean, yeah, he makes that, and essentially they go, oh, this is what you are. Like, it's like Drive was the anomaly, not the standard. Right. And then he makes another movie a couple of years ago called The Neon Demon about supermodels kind of losing their minds. And he has a very, like, there's two kinds of people in the world. There's essentially people who have seen Nicolas Winding Refn movies and go, wow, this is a lot. Or people who believe he's the second coming of God. I mean, there's people who are so on board with his movies.
The next Spielberg or
Exactly. And but you look at all his movies and see all his movies. This is the anomaly. This is not what the rest of his movies are. Now, what the rest of his movies are, it's the scene where Blanche gets her head blown off and he stabs the guy in the chest. That's a lot of that's what he does. Like, he does that kind of stuff.
We watched this last night, and like I said, I'd never even heard of it. So we watched it for the first time last night, and my wife commented, "That was really graphic." Like, she was like, "When people died, I mean,
it's never like, oh, I just died." It's like, nope, he's gonna get stabbed in the eye and then stab him in the throat 4 times. It's like, cool. Yeah. It's like, and that's just, he's a very visceral filmmaker, and that's just what he does.
Yes.
I want to talk about the sound for a little bit, because the elevator scene, my favorite scene in the movie, whenever it ends with Ryan Gosling stomping a guy's head, if you just see I was looking like the crunch of a boot onto whatever I think that scene in itself got the film the sole Oscar nomination. I mean, Jake, give me some ideas. What if you were trying to recreate the sound of a boot stomping a head? What's the thing you would try? Like just
I might a cantaloupe,
some sort of harder fruit, or
yeah,
but you think it's
something with a hard outer shell
that whenever it breaks is going to make a sound.
Yeah. Let's see.
I was trying to I'd love. I need to. I'm disappointed in myself. I didn't look up more about the sound engineering, because I mean, the sound of the crunch, 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 and he's just stomping the ever living hell out of that guy. You're just like, my Lord. And then there's one little shot of his boot, and you see blood, and it's not long, but still the whole time you're just like, oh man.
That's doing damage. Yeah, that's you're killing the guy. Yeah.
So there's essentially, that scene's kind of indicative of the whole movie, where they're in the elevator. It's them three. It's quiet. It's narrowed, and then bam, action, and then silent. I mean, did you feel like all the silence kind of made the action scenes pop that much more?
Yes, I definitely thought so. Especially the elevator scenes. The elevator scene's a good example, and it happens a couple other times in the movie where he knows, okay, I'm about to have to fight. I'm about to have to go into this, and everything slows down. And it's quiet.
And in fact, one of my favorite aspects of that scene, if you watch it again, every light outside of that one behind them dims, and so that's the only one still there. I was like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I liked that scene in the elevator. What it reminded me of, there's a saying is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so the people who are able to slow down and process it, and in this moment of absolute chaos are able to, I mean, it's like they're living,
Yeah, this is I remember they talked about it specifically in the movie Unforgiven, where they're talking in a gunfight. If you calm and pull your gun out and aim, you have a tendency to hit your target, as opposed to guys who would quick draw and then would essentially miss their mark. Yeah.
I mean, I know I've done like weapon speed drills and stuff like that, where whenever you try to, oh God, fast, you're fumbling shit. And but whenever you go, okay, I know what I'm doing, I know what I need to do, slow down, make your draw, get your target, put rounds on target.
Yeah,
that's way faster. And I mean, there's this saying, in the gun world, specifically more the tactical side, but is you can't miss fast enough to win the fight.
That makes sense.
So great. You can
did you see how quick I pulled that out and missed the target? Yeah, that's a good point.
If you don't hit anything, but the other guy can nail you, then you lost a fight. So
okay, so
I liked that aspect.
So so at this point, you don't have any expectations for this. You're going in, you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. There's some violence and all this kind of stuff. When he enters when the driver enters a strip club with a hammer, were you frankly disappointed when the scene was done? Because
he
just threatened. He smashes the hell out of his hand. But I
wanted him to stick that nail in him. Just do it.
Oh man, it's funny. That's actually the only character that he doesn't kill, and then Bernie ends up killing him. So Jake, okay, I want so Ryan Gosling. This is kind of where it propelled him into a new stratosphere of hero, and he's this kind of movie is kind of had a zeitgeist aspect to it. I want to see if you can guess. There was an actor in this movie that missed a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Oscars by the tip of their nose. Do you know? Would you guess which one they are? Which one almost got the Oscar nomination?
It's a female?
No. One of the men. One of the men.
Bryan Cranston?
No, actually, it was Albert Brooks. Albert Brooks almost got himself an Oscar nomination. I was watching it last night, and something I never noticed, he doesn't have eyebrows, which makes him look incredibly unsettling. It's really interesting whenever I think of his character, because you're like, oh yeah, this crazy mobster, and after a while, he's sitting there and he calls Ryan Gosling at near the end of the movie, and I was thinking, you know what? He's actually pretty reasonable. Like everything he does is like, well, I'm going to get killed by mobsters, so I don't want to get killed by mobsters. So because of my idiot friend, so I have to kill everybody involved with this, or they will tell the mobsters who will kill me. I mean, everything.
Very pragmatic.
Very pragmatic. Yes, even for a gangster.
And it's like, sorry, but this is the life you chose.
Yeah.
This is the way we run.
Yep.
Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Yeah,
This is where we're at. Yeah.
Yeah. Albert Brooks said, and I really liked it. And not only that, he's very and reasonable at the end. He's like, well, this girl doesn't have anything to do with this. She doesn't know anything. Why would I mess with her? Like, she's
right.
Like, but at the same time, he's terrifyingly realistic. And he's like, I can't give you the same, like, you're going to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And really, I think ultimately, choosing to spare the girl and the boy is not so much an act of mercy or honor or anything. It's really, he knows that's the ultimate leverage that he has against the driver.
Yeah.
And so he knows, it would behoove him to just leave them alone and focus on the driver.
Yeah.
He's better able to control the driver with that leverage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I said, being pragmatic, I mean, he's like, well, it wouldn't do me any good to kill them at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, and it's kind of funny because at that point, like, he cares, obviously, for the driver, obviously cares about Irene. But the most interesting thing at the end of that elevator scene is she's in the elevator. He stomps her head. He stomps the guy's head. The elevator opens and Irene walks out, and he kind of looks at her, and she essentially, it's without being said again. It's like, okay, this is never going to happen because you just watch me curb stomp a dude 50 times. And you realize it's like, this is not the guy I need to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. He kind of unfortunately shows his true colors, really. I mean, he's a good guy. He's obviously the protagonist.
Obviously.
He cares for Irene and her son, but he's involved in a dirty world, and she sees that and he recognizes it.
He's like, okay, that we had a shot a second ago, but not anymore. We don't. Like,
time to do what drivers do.
Exactly. So you talked about the music. The music in this movie is fascinating. It's the kind of movie you have and the kind of movie you expect. The music doesn't really match that, but the music sets the tone for what the movie actually is. I mean,
it's a bit eclectic. Almost.
Yeah, it's like electronic pop synth. But it's never anything I would ever choose to listen to. But in the moment, I'm like, that's nice. Like, good song.
It absolutely fits the scenes. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, even essentially, that's how this movie was created. So essentially, the Refn had read the novel and had talked to Gosling about it, and it was kind of falling apart. And then they were driving around. Then an REO Speedwagon song came on the radio, and they was like,
nice.
"Hey, maybe we can just kind of make a movie about this, but with criminal aspects." And that's just kind of how the movie went from there. Okay, Jake, I'm not going to mess around today. I'm going to get right to the goods. Every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for a poll for a dumbass. I am going to quiz you on the baby goose himself, Mr. Ryan Gosling. I don't know if how well you know his movies. And I mean, Drive is probably one of his more famous movies, and you had never heard of it. So, I mean, I'm excited for this one.
Never even heard of it. Yeah.
It's impressive, really. All right. So we're gonna get some big ones in early. I like to predict what your number is. I bet you have I'm quizzing you on 17. I think you are gonna get 5. I think it's gonna be a little lower than
really.
I think so. Yes. I think you'd be surprised. All right, we're gonna start off with he made his debut in a little movie I've never heard of called Frankenstein and Me. We're not going to count that one. The one that everybody remembers him in, and I say remembers it when you see it, you're like, hey, look, Ryan Gosling. But you don't remember he was in it because all these kids were in it. Remember the Titans.
Okay.
He was Donald Faison replaced him on defense. He was and his dad was the one he's like, how dare you replace my white son with the black guy? Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay. Yeah, remember the Titans. Big surprise, he was really handsome in that one, but it was a very small role. Obviously got his start on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Alongside I believe he was alongside Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, and you look at all the Mickey Mouse Club, excuse me. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and Justin Timberlake were fellow cast members. So wow. I mean, that suits them, I guess.
Well, say what you want about that show, but it
lost some careers.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of multi-millionaires in that group. I agree.
Yep.
Really came to prominence critically with a movie in 2001 called The Believer. I'm not going to mention that one. I think he's a skinhead. The first kind of taste of Hollywood he had was a 2002 Sandra Bullock drama called Murder by Numbers.
Sandra Bullock, Murder by Numbers.
It's one of her lesser known. I'm not surprised. Okay. So he kind of goes back and forth with some smaller roles and then more prominent roles, but the most prominent role, probably the movie that more people remember him out of anything else, The Notebook.
Yep.
The Notebook. Yep. I'm not surprised. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You've probably seen The Notebook.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
And I mean, chick flick, obviously.
And you're a big Rachel McAdams fan.
Yeah. Rachel McAdams is in it, then
you're on board. They actually started dating a little bit after a little while there.
Bastard.
Oh yeah.
Stole her from me.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the rest of his people as we go along.
I'm sure he's got quite a list.
He's married to Eva Mendes, so
that must be rough.
His first Oscar nomination, a great movie that I have no doubt in my mind you have never heard of. 2006's Half Nelson.
Oh, I love it.
Half Nelson's an exceptional movie. He plays a crack addict. He plays a crack addict high school teacher. He's very, very good in it. It's a very, very small, very good movie. It's kind of hard to find. Obviously, it's hard to hear of, but yeah. So first Oscar nomination back in 2006. 2007. He was in a one of those. We needed to coin a term for these. One of those kind of like, hey, it's on TNT at 5 o'clock in the afternoon movies. Him and Anthony Hopkins, Fracture. It's perfectly disposable. He's a lawyer, and Anthony Hopkins shoots his wife, and Anthony Hopkins is like, "Yep, shot her. I'm gonna get away with it." and it's one of those type of things. It's a fun disposable movie. So yeah, it's fun to look at. Okay, so another movie that you've definitely never seen. How about Lars and the Real Girl?
I've heard of it. No, I've never seen it.
It's also a very sweet, very interesting movie that you got to get on the board with. This is the one where he falls in love with a sex doll, essentially.
I have seen that, actually.
You have. It's a really sweet, good movie.
No, you just triggered it. Okay.
Yeah,
I have seen it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm shocked you haven't. Have you seen Lars and the Real Girl?
I have.
Wow. And I think it's probably one of his best performances.
Once you said sex doll it.
Yeah, the cool thing is it's not like you're like, well, that's nuts. Why is he in love with the sex doll? It's like, no. They know from the jump he's nuts. Like everybody's on board with it. His just missed another Oscar nomination, 2010 movie Blue Valentine, a movie you definitely have not seen. No. A really rough, depressing watch. But it's good movie, but little tough watch there. How about 2011's Crazy Stupid Love?
No,
you haven't seen Crazy Stupid Love. I was gonna guess that's what he's no more besides The Notebook. Ensemble, a lot of people in it. The Julianne Moore, Stephen Carell, Emma Stone, him, Marissa Tomei. It's an ensemble rom-com, cute movie.
If I have seen it, I don't remember it.
It's been on TV a lot. It's on TV a lot. It's
like around Valentine's Day.
No, it's a year-round movie. It's on. It's really a lot of interesting things to say about that one. Okay, you've seen Drive, obviously. How about the? I know how much you love political dramas. The Ides of March.
I haven't seen it.
He's a political consultant for a presidential candidate played by George Clooney. It should be better than it is, and it's just not. But
it sounds like it'd be good. But...
It should be, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it, Marissa Tomei again, and all these good people are in it, and it just
sounds like it should be a banger.
It should be great, and it's just not. No, it's a shame. How about 2012's? Actually, no. I'm gonna skip that one because it's like that's a movie that nobody sees. It's called The Place Beyond the Pines. It's the movie where he met Eva Mendes. But more than anything, they expected to be another Drive, and it's a 2.5-hour movie where he dies 30 minutes in. So it's not it's an interesting film, but regardless.
If you get to marry Eva Mendes as a result of it,
it works out. It all comes out in the wash. I agree. How about 2013's generic gangster movie, cops going after Mickey Cohen, Gangster Squad?
No.
Okay, not surprised. Only God Forgives that same year. We won't miss that one. How about 2015's the movie that made Adam McKay make the director of Step Brothers and Anchorman, The Big Short, about the economic collapse and the guys who bet against it?
No, I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever saw it.
Gosling is great. He's great in that movie. He never takes cocaine, but it's implied from how he's acting that he's definitely on something. So I'm not surprised you haven't seen the Big Short. How about a private detective extraordinaire in The Nice Guys? Him and Russell Crowe. Oh, Nice Guys. That's your next watch. Of all these,
Nice Guys,
The Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, he is hilarious in the movie. Russell Crowe's great too. It's a couple guys investigating LA in the 70s. It's very noirish. It's really cool, really entertaining, fun watch. Yeah, go watch The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
Obviously your favorite, La La Land.
Oh no, I didn't even.
That would.
Yeah. I know what it is, but just watching the previous, I was like,
we know how much you love musicals. La La Land, his second Oscar nomination. yeah, I didn't expect you to make it. We're only up to 4, by the way. I only got a few more left. How about I know, and you had mentioned, I'm going to count this as a miss, but you have not seen Blade Runner 2049.
No.
He's the main character in that. Very good. Okay, this is the last chance that I think you might actually get one that I don't know the answer to. How about 2018's First Man plays Neil Armstrong?
No, but that sounds good.
It is exceptional. Yeah, he has some good ones.
Yeah, my Ryan Gosling catalog is not good, but
no, not at all. I mean, and then
what is it called?
First Man. Yeah, he very. It's one of those. It's not like, oh, he's Neil Armstrong and he's a. If you like stoic, quiet, emoting through his face, Ryan Gosling. He plays Neil Armstrong as the Neil Armstrong he was, a quiet, calculating guy. It's like, who's the kind of guy who's going to be the first person on the moon? This guy. And it's all the NASA mechanisms. It's an technically incredible film. I really, really love First Man.
I'm gonna watch that tonight, actually.
Oh, First Man's exceptional. Tons of people in it. Oh,
I love movies like Apollo 13 and
man, you're gonna love First Man then. Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. And then the last one's The Gray Man. Obviously, we did the podcast on it. So 5 out of 17. You have not good Gosling knowledge. Coming up, he's doing a movie, I guess an adaptation of the TV show The Fall Guy. Sure. But more than anything, the movie coming out next year, he is playing Ken in Barbie.
No.
Yes. Now to his credit, I believe he is a very self-aware guy. It's supposed to be a comedy, and I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be ridiculous.
I'm not going to find out.
What? You're not going to be first in line to watch Barbie?
No, I don't think I'll pitch my tent outside the movie theater.
All right. 5 for 17 for Pull for a Dumbass. Not too bad. Okay. So all your time as a police officer, I imagine you probably had to do tactical driving classes and courses and things like that. Could you tell me a little bit about all that kind of stuff you did?
Well, whenever you go through the academy, obviously, you have to go through this driving course. It's it's a tactical driving course, and then was it every year or every other year?
Re-up.
You had to re-up, and so it's one of those things where I look back on it and I'm like, I can't believe they paid me. Like, to teach me how to drive balls to the wall. Like, that ain't a bad day at the office, you know?
So your perfect day is like, okay, guys, we're doing tactical driving followed by Russian organized crime training.
Yeah, that'd be great.
This is my career. Fantastic. I'm on board with this. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's really fascinating to really look into the dynamics that go into driving at a very high level.
Sure.
To where you can maintain control of that vehicle while you're basically making it perform at its absolute top.
Okay.
So there are so many techniques in steering, when to brake, when to let off, when to get back on the accelerator, how much steering input to put in. It's much more technical than I think people generally think about, you know.
Sure.
They think, driving fast and pursuits and stuff, stomp on the gas and get after it. that there is so much more involved.
Is it more the subtlety of it, or the small parts, or is it more just kind of like just knowing what to do in certain situations?
It's reading the conditions, reading what kind of turn you need to make.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many factors, but just knowing how to control that vehicle and, you know, keep it from sliding into a house or, you know, killing a kindergarten class or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, especially, I mean, in my experience, working within a city, I mean, you've got to be very, very cautious. Obviously, it's, you know, it's a bad day if you wipe out, you know, so, but I mean, all that driving training, honestly, it was just fun as shit.
I imagine. So all that training, I mean, how many actual high speed pursuits of any sort of type were you able to do?
Oh, I don't know. A lot.
Yeah. But not so much like.
No, not as much as like a state trooper or, you know, county sheriffs would do. Obviously, I worked within a city, so high population, a lot of traffic, and you have to consider the safety of the general public. And
of course, yeah.
I mean, I either called off or got called off of more pursuits than I was probably in.
Oh, okay.
Honestly. But
makes sense.
But the ones I was in, they were good ones.
Well, I remember a story you told me once where you had gotten a call. Essentially, you said whatever they told you to do is lights and sirens fast, you can't get there. And a specific place where we used to live had a big dip, and you hit the dip and your radio comes off, hits you in the head, and it's
yeah, I was going way too fast, hit this terrible dip, and I mean, equipment is flying off mounts, you know, the drink that I had in the cup holder explodes. Yeah.
I mean, there was that during the scene in Drive, whenever they're driving away from after Standard's killed, Blanche is in the back, and in the middle of the scene, my wife yells out, "Put your seatbelt on, idiot! You're gonna be flying all over the place." Like,
yeah,
there's a reason you have them there. It's like you need to.
Yeah, seatbelts are important. Yeah, 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 and it was funny. So beginning of the movie, Bryan Cranston gives the driver a car for a job.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was an Impala, a Chevy Impala.
It was a silver Chevrolet Impala.
Yeah.
And 3 years in
the plainest car you could possibly get.
3 years in detectives, guess what I drove? It was a silver
Chevy Impala.
And I can tell you that the vehicle that I drove, that Chevy Impala, wouldn't have done any of that.
No.
No matter how good of a driver I was. That was not a getaway.
You know, you didn't have the big souped up engine in the middle of that.
Nope.
Well, I didn't think it was
about a decade old.
You know, it's always funny because whenever I see like a lot of times people will buy old cop cars at auction.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I see that, I go, "Oh, I'm sure it was cheap." And then I think about it and I'm like, I bet you that's some hard miles on those cars.
That is not a good idea, folks.
You're talking about an engine.
If you want a cheap car, you can get a cheap car, but these suckers get rode hard. And you know, if something breaks down, okay, leave it here. I don't care about it. Like do you think a cop cares about changing his oil? Like well, we had a full mechanic shop, so if we ever had any maintenance issues, then we'd turn it in over there.
But still, I mean, how many times have you been like in your Chevy Impala or whatever, or your police, let's say your patrol car, the black and whites? How many times you're just like, okay, let's see how hard I can push this thing to the floor? And
well, yeah, I spent a lot of time in Ford Crown Victorias
Yeah.
in a short time, in their Taurus Police Pursuit version, and then on to the Explorer version. And man, I tell you what, a Ford Crown Victoria is a workhorse.
I'll bet it just goes and goes and goes.
It actually saddened me whenever they said they weren't making them anymore.
It's like there's a part of it's like, man, that pit put in some work.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were the workhorses of America's police departments for
I can imagine
decades and decades.
I'm sure. All right, so for the first time on this podcast, we're going to have a guest. Jake, take the floor, please.
Yeah, first ever guest appearance except for our wives' hands and arms.
Okay.
But I thought this was appropriate as our first guest for this movie. So I would like to introduce someone. So yeah, I couldn't resist. I thought this was just too apropos to resist.
Okay.
So this is our first guest performance here, or guest appearance, I should say. But it is someone named Driver.
There he is.
There he is.
Look at that handsome boy.
Yeah.
Well,
he's goofy. He's half German Shepherd or maybe Belgian Malinois and then half Schnauzer. So he's
what an interesting looking, good looking animal.
More goofy.
He also has an unrequited love with the girl a couple doors down and her son. So I mean, it makes sense to me.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's fun. It's funny, watching the whole time. You're just you get the Baby Driver parallels and Driver and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, see, even the dog Driver, not a real name, just Driver. Like,
yeah,
hey kid.
And that's the funny thing is, all right, get out of here. You want to stay?
Okay, it's fine.
All right, but he. Yeah, that's the funny thing is he's not named after this movie at all.
Really? Yeah. So it just happened to be I know how much you love golf. I assumed.
Yeah, no, it's I've basically spent the vast majority of my adult professional life driving.
Makes sense.
I've lived out of a vehicle. I mean, I make a living now on the road driving every day. I mean,
makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was.
So do you have, I imagine every time you get in your car, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. My driving gloves ready.
Right.
And
I always make sure I have a white jacket with a golden scorpion on the back. I put on the leather driving gloves.
Let me put my blonde bangs out of my hair, my face.
Right.
And it's like ready to go.
Yeah. I always have to deal with my hair. And
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, Jake, I think it's about that time.
All righty. You're in the hot box.
Every episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's just trivia. Sometimes it is not. Jake, you have the floor.
All right. What's the fastest you've ever driven?
Driven or ridden, because those are two different sides of it. So I used to have a truck that had a really, really great engine, and I think I got it up to 108 once. But as far as the fastest I've ever been in a car, I was in a car with our other brother, and he had a very nice car, and we were on a nice stretch of road that was nice and clear, and he got it up to about 134. And I was sitting there going, okay, I don't like this anymore. Please slow down. Never any driver experiences. So 134 in somebody else's car, which was just, smooth as silk, no problems, no issues at all. but still just a feeling of terror. Like, I don't have a roll cage in here. Like, and
yeah. And as I recall, that vehicle ended up totaled.
Correct. Not due to speed, but yes, correct. Probably for the best. Probably.
All right. So I know this answer, but for our audience,
yes.
I know you and your wife, my sister-in-law, are big NASCAR fans.
Yes.
So who is your favorite NASCAR driver?
My favorite NASCAR driver is Martin Truex Jr. Whenever I started picking up on NASCAR, I had, my wife had watched it, and so I kind of got into it. And it's like, she's like, well, you got to pick a driver. You got to have somebody, to cheer for. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't really like. I was never like the Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr. types. I was just like, I don't know, maybe like let's go off the beaten path. Sure. And Martin Truex Jr. was in the number 56 blue and yellow Napa car. And I'm like, that's nice. It's like, I'll pick him. And he had some rough times and he didn't do very well. And then he goes and he wins the championship one year. And then it was like, man, and I met him once. It's like, he's always been my guy. And now my wife will be like, he kind of looks like you. I was like, I think he's better looking than me, but whatever. Like, yeah, he's still my guy. Martin Truex Jr.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. What's the longest road trip you've ever taken?
Okay. So
I know you have a lot of time.
I do have a lot
on
of
the
time.
road,
I do,
but not as a driver.
As a driver, but yes. So, the longest. Okay, so this will probably count. As you know, Jake, Texas is a very, very large state.
It is.
So you can go for a very, very long time in Texas without ever getting out of the state. So I used to work for a baseball team, and we living in Amarillo at the very almost northern Texas as you go.
The top of Texas.
We were taking a road trip to Harlingen, Texas, at the very, very bottom of Texas. That being said, this was peak immigration times. So because of that, there were a lot of immigration checkpoints. But before that, so we're heading down south, and we get south of San Angelo, and a group of turkey are crossing the road. And our bus, the moment the turkeys got to the side of our bus, this one turkey decided it was the time to try to fly. So it jumped up, and we just demolished it in the front of the bus. It caved in the window, and that was a thing. This was probably at 6 a.m. Woke everybody up. They were like, what is this? It's like, well, we hit a turkey. And it's like, okay, well, that's fun. So what are we going to do about this? We put like a foam mat and like a belt, and it just to keep it up. And we're like, okay. So we're continuing to go down. And then we have to avoid the immigration checkpoints for two reasons. One is the bus would probably be deemed, they'd be like, well, you can't take this anywhere. Like, we have to impound it or whatever. And there was a game we had to get to at 7 p.m. So because of that, we were missing the immigration checkpoints. But addition to that, we had a number of Puerto Rican players and Dominican players, and a lot of them didn't have passports on them. And so we're like, well, this just in case, like, they're all legal. We all had them in the country legally, but at the same time, we had to take that into consideration. Yeah. So we're bobbing, weaving all around the guts of Central and South Texas. And it is it's about 6 p.m. and we're still an hour out from Harlingen, and we have a game at 7. And I mean, the air conditioner breaks down. Bless you. The air conditioner breaks down. The whole the only air we're getting in the bus is from the cracked window in the front. Nobody has a shirt on because we're all sweating. We're all like, I'm starting to have cabin fever. We get to the field at 7:30 p.m. Game's at 7. Everybody's like, where's the team? We get there at 7. We had left at 11 p.m. the night before. So I was in that bus for about 20 hours. Yeah. So that was the longest length and probably I took that trip a couple times, but I mean, just as far as being in a car, it was really awful. Fun note: we won that game 9-2.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, so yeah,
It was worth it.
No, it was not. Because
no, never mind.
Because everybody, like, they somehow won the game. We go back to the hotel, everybody passes out, and then we got stomped the rest of the series. It was just, we're mentally destroyed. But I mean, what a mess.
Yep. All right.
It's not as fun as you would think.
Yeah. Doesn't sound fun.
Okay, Jake. So a side question to that. So you have had some real treks. What's the longest time as far as, okay, I'm going from this destination to another destination in a car?
Mm. I helped our parents and our younger brother move from San Francisco, or the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Of California, back here to the Panhandle of Texas. And so that's 2
days,
2.5 days, something like that. Yeah.
And yeah, those baseball players would tell me, they're like, oh yeah, I came here from Boston. I'm like, oh yeah, what would you fly in? It's like, didn't fly. It's like, I have no money. I can't fly. Like, I drove here from Boston. I'm like, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. And then just here recently, going down to Brownsville so that's at the very, very bottom of Texas. And basically I live at the top.
The very top, yeah.
So it's about 12 hours after you figure in stops and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
makes sense.
Yeah, it's a long trek.
I don't know how you do it.
I like it for some reason.
Yeah.
How many wrecks have you been in?
I have been in, let's see. I've been in 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. I've only one has not been my fault. Only one. Yeah. Like the most recent one, which was about 6 years ago. I was the second car in a 4-car sandwich. That was the only one that wasn't my fault. I always have bad luck. If I get in a wreck, I'm like, I screwed up somewhere. It's never like, I'm never on my phone. I never messing with anything. Never like not paying attention. I'm not. Yeah, nothing like that. It's just, I was like, I made some dumb mistake. Like, I was like, oh, didn't think there'd be somebody to my left, and I thought they were already gone. I let off the brake and rear, or something stupid like that. Like, but I've been lucky. It's no injuries really. It's just always been kind of like fender bender annoyances. There's nothing more annoying in the world than dealing with car stuff.
Yeah, especially with wrecks and insurance claims and all that.
What a mess. Yeah.
Yeah. I need a Ryan Gosling to just fix it.
Yeah.
But, so on that note, whenever we lived together, as adults, what happened to the front license plate of my truck?
Well, if you ask the insurance adjuster, it was a hit and run, Jake. It was, so, we were in a parking lot and then the license plate was gone. In reality, I'd backed out of the garage, and
I agree, it was a hit and run.
In reality, I opened my car was in the garage. I opened it up, I put it in reverse, and I go, oh, look, Jake's car's there.
Bang.
Luckily, your truck was big enough where it wasn't really much of an issue. But still,
it was only the license plate. Yeah. I was like, what happened to my front license plate? And you were like,
don't know. Who knows? Like,
who's to say?
So somebody stole it.
I had to apply for a lost plate. I had to get new plates. And it was only when I was putting the new plate on the front that I discovered that
it was lodged underneath.
Jammed it up behind the grill.
Yep. I mean,
that license plate is hanging in my garage. I thought about showing it.
It's possible in the early episodes when you were in your garage, it's been in the background, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
So no, we didn't make a claim for that one because it was just
No, I don't think so. I just got a new plate and that was it.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's what I was talking. I was not on the phone. I was not doing anything. I just backed out. I went, all right, reverse.
All right, time to get out of the garage.
Yeah, exactly. And there you're, not my proudest moment. I still think I'm a pretty decent driver, but it makes me sound terrible.
Nah, you're all right. All right. So obviously this movie's set in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Have you ever been to LA?
I have. Have I been to LA? I'm not sure I have. I've been to.
I couldn't remember.
I don't believe I have. We've been to San Diego. We went to San Diego once when we were kids. Yeah. Our parents lived in the Bay Area for a little while. We're in San Francisco. I've never been to LA. No.
No.
There's 1,000 things I'd want to see. But it's the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences has a museum there. It's like my Disneyland. I would love to go there, see all the all the the Hollywood sign, the observatory, all the stuff you would want to see. I'd like to see. I do not want to live there. It's way too big. Like I live in a big enough, like even the city I live in is not really.
You live in way too big of a place for
and
me.
Even that, I don't live in Dallas. I just live in the Dallas area. I live in a suburban area, but it's still close enough to be busy. So yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Now I've only been to LAX. Stop over at the airport.
That's right. Yeah.
But beyond that.
Okay. That makes sense.
I haven't either. But all right. So last one here. Bryan Cranston. I love Bryan Cranston.
I do too.
I think he's good in pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he can fit a variety of roles.
Yes.
Anyway, so for our audience, Ben and I are big Seinfeld fans.
Yes.
We've seen every episode multiple times.
Uh-huh.
We know quite a bit about it.
Yeah.
So Bryan Cranston did have a few appearances.
Yes, he did.
Seinfeld. So my question is, what was his character's name and occupation?
Okay. So he was a dentist.
Correct.
He had he was a dentist who a couple things. He converted to Judaism for the jokes. And then Jerry was accused of being an anti-dentite. Then he had the racist Deborah Messing, I believe, was his girlfriend. And then he tried to, and then John Voight's pencil that he was trying to decipher through the so
because he had bit Kramer.
He bit Kramer in the arm, and then he had the pencil. Yeah. So I am trying, man. I as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh no, I can see him exactly. What's his first name? Tim. Oh crap.
Yeah.
Tim. No, I'm blanking on it. Tim.
To be honest, I had to look it up.
Okay.
I couldn't remember, but
Tim
Whatley.
Tim Whatley. Okay, yes, Tim Whatley. Yes.
Yes. I love that episode.
Give me a schmeckle of chloride. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you're a rabid anti-dentite.
Do you know?
I am a self-proclaimed anti-dentite.
You're not much of a dentist guy. I get it. So do you know what? So what Oscar-winning movie featuring Tom Hanks also has Bryan Cranston in it with one arm?
Saving Private Ryan.
Correct. He is the man who discovers, in charge of the pool of ladies who discover the letters to the Ryan brothers. Yeah. So, he's
good in everything.
He is good in everything.
Dramatic roles, comedic roles. I mean,
I really enjoy Bryan Cranston. I think a lot of people don't know what to do with him. Like directors and movies don't know what to do with him because they're like, man, he's so good in the specific way he was good in Breaking Bad and Malcolm in the Middle. And Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad are so wildly different. Like he's so comedic and hilarious and stupid. And then Breaking Bad, he's so menacing. And then after that point, it's the directors have a difficult time trying to figure out what to do with him. Like, I really like what they did in this movie. He is a fountain of dialogue, essentially, to offset Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling didn't say anything. He doesn't ever shut up. Yeah. So, I mean,
good point.
Yeah. But I'm with you. I think got an Oscar nomination playing Dalton Trumbo in a movie that's kind of really much maligned. It's not bad. It's a movie called Trumbo. It's okay. It's fine. It's a very Hollywood. Talks about HUAC and communism and how that infiltrated Hollywood. It's interesting, but I wish he'd have more to do. But if you're Bryan Cranston and you're living off Breaking Bad money, you don't have to do anything else. Like, there's a reason you don't see David Schwimmer doing anything, because he doesn't have to. Like, he can sit back and count the paychecks. Like, and that's what I would do.
Those residuals,
let them roll in, and who cares?
Residuals from TBS.
So this is my Daniel Radcliffe thing. He played Harry Potter so long, like, he made so much money off Harry Potter. He's like, hey, I can do whatever I want. Cool, I'm gonna be weird as shit. And so he's like, I'm gonna do all this weird, wacky stuff. And
and to me, I would want to be older before I got filthy rich.
Yeah, because when you're young, you're like, man, I'm not going to handle this well.
Nuts. Yeah.
I mean, and Cranston's one of those guys who never really had success until he was in his 40s. So it took him a long time.
And I mean, he's been in he's been in other sitcoms. Like, he was in King and Queens. As the neighbor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I really like Bryan Cranston. I think he's really, really, really talented.
Yeah, and he also seems like one of those guys you're like, I bet he's nice.
Yeah.
Like, in real life,
he seems like it.
He seems like a nice guy. I'm finally out of the hot box.
You can leave the hot box.
Okay.
All right.
Before we go, Jake, what is your film rating of Drive? So this is dead cold. You had no idea what we were going into, and now what do you think?
I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Nice.
As with most action movies, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like we've mentioned before, kind of the fair cheeseburger that you need, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in that category.
Sure.
I mean, if it is a fair cheeseburger, then it's the best damn one at the entire fair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the trailer or the booth or whatever that you go to.
Yeah.
So. But I really, really like it. I mean, it's good if you like action. It's well acted.
Yeah.
I think it was well written. There was really nothing that I didn't like about it. So
good. I'm pleasantly surprised. I was going into it thinking this is going to be one where he's like, you're going to hate it. It's going to be a fun discussion, and you really like. And as I watched,
that's what I expected from what you said last week.
As I watched it last night, I was like, this is going to end. Even my own expectations, I'm like, this isn't going to be as good. And I'm like, nope, still great. So I have it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's my number 4 movie from the year. It's my favorite Refn movie. That's not personally not that hard to beat. I don't really love his other movies, but I mean, lot to like about it. And I was surprised. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. It wasn't as artsy fartsy as I was expecting. I was like, I was thinking it's like, oh yeah, this is going to be a little frou-frou-y and try hard, pretentious, and it just wasn't. So yeah. So that just about does it for us. Before we go, let's give a quick programming note. So this is our last episode of September. The entire month of October, there are 5 episodes in the month of October. We're going to be doing scary and Halloween adjacent movies. So it's going to be a fun time. Yeah, we're going to talk about some. We're going to talk about some fun, good stuff. Next week, I think we're doing The Thing, a movie Jake has never seen. Nope. John Carpenter's The Thing, an excellent a lot of paranoia, a lot of different stuff. We're going to get into it. It's going to be a blast. So we're going to do scary stuff all the month of October. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Unfortunately, that means I have to watch all the stuff during the day because my wife can't do scary at night. So it happens. That does it for this episode of the Film Critic and the Common Man. Thanks so much very, very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at nebisben and Letterboxd at neb810, Instagram at Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, Ice Cream for Freaks. You can follow my other writing on the film experience and Cinema Scholars. You can find me on other pods. I'm recording another one tomorrow as I am the David Thewlis of podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you on the streets of Los Angeles?
Yeah, just go to LA. There's a place called Skid Row.
Tent City. Yeah.
I'll be in there somewhere.
The you take off your hat and you get a grungy shirt, you would fit right in. Nobody would bat an eye.
That's what I'm saying.
The beard, it's all there. I mean, very, very well coiffed, but still, yeah. Make sure to follow the podcast. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter.
Just ask for me.
And follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Common Pod. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We very much appreciate you all listening. You can listen on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Good Pods, anywhere you can hear us. We will catch you guys next time. Scary movies next week. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, guys.
What's the trick? What's the trick? In making my love stick. What's the trick?